Now, having opened the Northwind database and using the navigation pane, I'd like to first of all have a look at the tables. As you can see here in your navigation pane, there are in fact 8 tables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, I'm not going cross-eyed. There are in fact 8 tables containing very different information. So let's have a look first of all. Let's have a look at the employees table. To open up a table, simply double click it. When you double click this table, you will see this table opened up and showing it in this area here. What I can see by opening up the employees table, and particularly looking down here, is I'm viewing one of 9 records. So there are in fact 9 records and 9 employees in the employee table in the Northwind database. And I can move between those records using what they call navigation buttons. I can move to the second, third, fourth, just by simply clicking the navigation button. And if I want to move to the 5th record, I can click in here where it says 9 of 9, backspace, and put say 5. And when I press enter, I've gone to the 5th record. So you can go to the 1st record, you can go to the last record. You can go the previous record or the next record. You can click in here and actually say you want to go to a particular record. And this particular button here enables you to create a new blank record if you had a 10th employee. Now, having opened up the employee table, you can see that there's a number of columns, and this table is in a view what we call data sheet view. And so you're seeing the data organized into columns, otherwise also known as fields. So we have a column or a field called employee ID, and I'm just going to press the tab key, and a column called last name, and a field called first name, and a column called title, and a field called title of courtesy, and so on. So you can see that this is the information that they keep about each employee. Tab's moving me forward, and Shift tab is what I use to move backwards. Though feel free to use your mouse and feel free to use your arrow keys. This is just traditionally how you move forward with the tab, and Shift tab takes you backwards. Now when you do actually move to a field, it highlights the content, the entire content of that field. And if you wish to make a change, then you need to press the key F2. F2 is edit, same as Excel, same as Project, a number of other Microsoft programs. And then I can actually change what's actually in a particular field. Now when I change what's in a field, a little pencil appears out to the left-hand side in an area known as the record selector. So the record selector is showing a pencil, which means that there's been an edit or a change to this record. And in order to save that change, I either hit this save button here up on the home tab in the ribbon, or as I rest on it, it mentions Shift Enter. That will let me save this record as well. Or I simply close this table or simply move to another record. You don't have to save your records as you make changes. They will save automatically as soon as you leave that record. But sometimes we're halfway through a record and we get called away, so we do need to save what we've done so far because we don't want to leave the record. So it's completely up to you. If I hit the down arrow, I have lost the pencil, which means that's been saved. I'm just going to down arrow and I'm just going to go Control C, or I could hit the copy button here. I'm going to take a copy of sales rep. I'm going to go up and I'm going to go Control V or paste, and I'll paste that particular text into this title again. My pencil reappears saying that this record has been edited, and I'll just press enter or down arrow to save the changes. So we move between the fields simply by using tab and shift tab. We've moved between the records by either going down arrow to each row. Each row is a record, or we use the navigation buttons at the bottom. To close this particular table, I'm going to hit the X over here, and this will close this table employees. Let's have a look at the customers table. So there's 9 employees. If I double click customers, this is a little bit larger, and I'll just maximize it by double clicking customers. What I can see down here is 91 records, and I can again use my navigation buttons to move between the records. Each customer is identified with a customer ID, and down here on my status bar it tells me this is a unique 5-character code based on their customer name. So the way this has been designed is somebody has to come up with a unique 5-character code for each customer, and they're keeping customer name, company name, contact title, address, city, and so on. So this table is keeping information about the customers. If I close this table, and I just hit this X here to close this window or close this table, I've looked at the employees, there's 9. I've looked at the customers, there's 91. Now I'm going to have a look at, say, the products, which is what this company does. Northwind is in the business of importing and exporting gourmet food and beverages and selling gourmet food and beverages. I'll double click products and I can immediately see that this company has in fact 77 products. Each product has an ID, each product has a name, a supplier, a category it belongs to, quantity, unit price, units in stock, units on order, whether it's what its reorder level is and whether it's discontinued or not. So you can easily move. Now the tables are the foundation of your database. Basically you can't have a database unless you have at least one table. You can see that you can have more than one table if you have a lot of data that needs to be organized into main areas. So I've organized the products into one table, the orders into another table, the employees in another table, and the customers in another table. And the success of the databases is basically determined by how well these tables are designed. Now data doesn't appear anywhere else in the database. Data does not appear it is not stored in queries. Data is not stored in reports or forms. All data is stored in tables. So that's where your raw data resides. Now the purpose of forms, let's go and have a look at forms. The purpose of forms is to act as an interface for the user. So the user interacts with the form, which is effectively updating the table. So where we had the customers table, I now want to look at the customers form, which is based on the customers table. When I double click the customers form, I can see again, just like the table, I have 91 customers. And the form is designed to make it nice and user-friendly and pleasant to work with the data. Instead of seeing all 91 rows, you're seeing one record at a time. And so this is when these navigation buttons become really important. You can move to record 2, record 3, record 4. You can even hit the page down key. Page down will take you to 5, 6, 7, and page up will take you back to record 1. Control End will take you to the last record. And the key combination Control Home will take you to the first record. So Control End to the last, Control Home to the first, page up, page down, or just interact with these navigation buttons to go to the first record, the last record, the next record, and the previous record. Or again, click straight in here and tell it you want to go to record 55 and enter. And that's exactly where you'll end up. So the forms are a nice user-friendly interface. They are typically based on a table, though they can be based on a query, or they can actually be based on nothing. They can simply be just a splash screen or an interface form that the user interacts with. I'm going to close this form. Now we have also got an employees table which had 9 employees, and we also have an employees form. So I'm going to double click the employees form, and here are the 9 employees mentioned at the bottom here. Now the strength of a form is its ability, as I mentioned, to present information nicely, and particularly things like photographs. Like here's a photo of Nancy. Tables can hold a photograph, but they can't display a photograph. Let me just show you. If I go into employees, here's the employees, here's Nancy, and if I go tab across to the end here, it tells me that there is a photo there, but it's unable to show it. If I close this table, in the form I can actually show it, and as I move between each of the 9 employees I can see a photo. And also we can organize information into tabs. This is the company information and this is the personal information regarding this particular person, Michael. So forms are a good, nice, user-friendly interface. Whatever you add, delete or change in a form typically will add, delete or change back in the table it's based on. But I mentioned it doesn't have to be based on a table or a query. So I'm closing the employees form, and let's have a look at this form, main switchboard. When I double click this form is not based on a table or a query. This form is an interface form where I can easily go into categories, which is another form, and then close. Go into suppliers, which is another form, and then close. Go into products, which was the 77 products we saw earlier, and this is presented nicely, and close. So a form can be an interface not based on a table or query, but typically a form most commonly is based on a table and is used for interacting with the data. in a user-friendly way. So in this particular course, we'll be looking at creating tables, we'll be looking at creating forms, and we'll also be looking at creating reports. Let's have a look at reports. In here we have a number of reports. Let's say we have a look at the invoice report. No, let's start with catalog actually. I'm going to double click catalog. This is a catalog of the 77 products that they supply, presented nicely in their winter or fall catalog. Now to zoom in on Northwind Traders, we simply click the magnifying glass to zoom in and click the magnifying glass to zoom out. So you can zoom in and zoom out to read things. To navigate between the pages, we've got triangles down below here, so I'm going to go to the next page. The next page is just a little bit of blurb about a tour of the gastronomic world, and you can read it or not. And page 3 is when we finally kick in and we can see what products they provide in the category beverages. So in beverages we have these products, and these are their product IDs, and this is their quantity, and here we see their prices. And I can zoom back out. And I can simply move between the pages by pressing these navigation buttons till I get to the final page, which is in actual fact an order form. So a report is not for data entry. It's not a user interface. A report is reflecting the data in a table or in a query. If, for example, there's a mistake in the spelling of a product name or there's a mistake in the price of a product, you would not fix that in the report. It would typically mean that the price was incorrect or the product name was incorrect in the underlying table. And so the report is just simply printing the information in a nice user-friendly way. And it can be printed, here's the print button, or it can even be sent to a PDF file. But I'm going to close print preview. To look at print preview for invoices, let's double click the report invoice. And here you can see they use a report to produce their invoices. This is an invoice to Rattlesnake Canyon. As I move to the second page using the navigation buttons, you can clearly see that Access is capable of doing formulas. And so you can calculate information using Access. And basically they create all their invoices using reports. And I'll simply close. So in this stage 1, we'll be looking at creating tables, we'll be looking at creating queries, we'll be creating forms, and we'll be creating reports. We won't be creating macros or modules. That will kick in the stage 2 and 3. I will simply expand forms and expand queries, and instead of closing this database, which I could easily do by hitting the X in the top right corner, I would actually like to keep this database open and work with multiple databases throughout this session.